This looks harder to paint than it actually is, but it's super easy for beginners. It's also a really fun and relaxing one, so let me show you how I painted this. Start with painting the sea first, so mix up some blues, whites and a touch of yellow. Here I used ultramarine blue, titanium white and yellow medium. Start with a straight line first, just above the middle of the page for the horizon, and underneath that fill the whole page in with that colour. Then with a flat brush and a slightly darker shade of the blue, add lots of thin, short lines to create those waves, making sure most of them are near the bottom of the page, as this will make sure to create some depth and really bring that sea forward. Then create a lighter blue by adding in a little bit more white, and do the same thing with your flat brush, adding lots of short thin lines at the top of the sea. Do blend in a few of them together so that it's not a complete split. Then add a few small thin lines of white to accent those lovely waves. Now for the sky, I added more white to that mix of blue and filled in the blank space above the sea. It doesn't matter that the sky will have slightly different shades of blue. It doesn't need to be the exact same colour all the way through. As you know, a sky has several shades of blue, so if there are slightly lighter parts than others, it will look like clouds. In the reference photo, it's quite a misty look, so I blended in some of the lighter shades of blue for the sky into the sea. If your sea has already dried, you can use a little bit of water to try and blend the two together, or just create a slightly darker shade of blue again and then just mix the two, and that should be fine. As the sea will have the reflection of the sky on it, I used the same colour that I used for the sky and added a few thin, short brush strokes on the sea. I then used a little bit of water to try and blend those shades of blue into the sea so it makes it look more natural. The important thing here is to let the paint dry before you start painting the boat. You can either wait for the paint to dry or you can use a hairdryer. The reason is because you don't want the colours you're using for the boat to blend into the blue of the sea. So for the base of the boat, I used a touch of raw sienna, yellow and white, and I used a smaller paintbrush to paint this. The boat will need to be painted near the top right corner of the sea to show that it's in the distance. The boat should be a rectangular shape with a pointy end. So again, make sure that your painting is thoroughly dried before you start painting the sails. To paint the sails, start with your best white paint. So here I'm using my titanium white from Liquitex. It's a heavy body professional one, so it's a really lovely thick white paint. The top of the sail will want to be above the horizon. Start with the left sail so it's a slightly slanted triangle, then fill that in with the white paint, and then paint the right sail, and it should be slightly taller than the left one, and it will be mirrored so the point will be at the other end. Sometimes if it doesn't look that white, I would wait for it to dry and then paint more white on top. Now you'll want to create a shadow between the two sails. So it can be very common to use grey to create shadows, which is absolutely fine. In this case, I've been trying to avoid using black so much to test myself to use a slightly different colour. So here I'm using ultramarine blue. Only a very smidge of ultramarine mixed with white, and then painted that down the middle of the two sails and blended it in with a little bit of water into the right sail. So whilst you wait for the sails to dry, you can then add in your highlights to the boat. So add in a very thin brushstroke of white on the top of the boat. To paint the grooves of the sails, you can use the same colour that you use for the shadows of the sails. So add in 3 tiny lines on each sail. You can see from my painting that where I've mixed in some of the water to create the misty look between the sky and the sea, that it's actually dried up and you can see the horizon, which is fine. That's the beauty of acrylics. So I'm just going back over it just to kind of make sure that it blends together and you can no longer see a fine sharp line. That's why acrylics are just so great, so that any mistakes that you make, just wait for it to dry and you can just paint back over it and correct it and no one will ever know. As with all my paintings, I love to just find anywhere that I can create a few more highlights to really make things pop. So here I'm just adding in a few touches of white around the sail to create the sun reflection, which you can see in the reference photo. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel to see more tutorials like this.